Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm joined by Tucker as usual, but today is a very special thing because we're doing a little bit of an inversion of something that happened a couple episodes ago.
Mhm.
Because card in the corner to our Super Mario Galaxy review, Tucker sat me down and said, Abram, we're recording. I'm not telling you what we're recording about though. And I fucking was greeted to a discussion about one of my favorite games of all time. So today I want to sit Tucker down and greet him to another very exciting topic because today, Tucker Hazel, is November 18th. Do you know what happened 8 years ago today on November 18th?
No. What?
The Wii U released in North America.
Oh, interesting. I haven't heard anyone talking about that.
That's why we're going to be at the fucking forefront of today's 8 years of Wii U retrospective anniversary celebration
Great.
birthday bash.
Should I get my Wii U gamepad for prop comedy, or is that not worth my effort?
Oh, I mean, I've got mine right here, so I think this
Sure.
does it. Hey, look at
You
that
can you
fucking.
can see what the fuck? You can see it back there behind Yoshi.
But yes, Tucker, I brought you here today because the Wii U is now 8 years old, and I
Congratulations. Old
wanted
enough to drink.
I wanted to sit down and chat with you a little bit about what I feel is one of Nintendo's best systems.
Yeah. As we learned yesterday on the recording of BLB episode 6, which will be going up today, you hate the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo. So it's peculiar to see you spouting such praise for the infamously low sales of the Wii U.
Now here's the thing, we sat down to record BLB episode 6 yesterday, and I was feeling some sort of fucking way. Yesterday was just an off day, continued into the night, fucking barely slept, haven't showered
Holy
yet,
shit.
haven't eaten yet. But my mind feels a little bit clearer today, and
Okay.
I'm ready to celebrate a console that has a lot of personal significance, but I also think a lot of objective merit that people don't talk about, especially today in 2020.
Sure.
So I want to first start with when we both got our Wii U's, because I think this is a fun place to start, because I didn't get mine right away.
No. Yeah, me neither.
I asked
You
for
said
one.
2012, November 18th,
November
2012?
18th, 2012 came out in North
Okay.
America. I asked for one for, I think, my birthday. I didn't get it. It turns out it was because I was getting an iPod Touch,
Okay.
which kept a little fucking, I guess, 11-year-old Abram happy. But in 2014, I got my Wii U. What happened is I broke my wrist. Okay, it
hmm
was the first day of eighth grade middle school tennis practice.
First day. Wow.
First day. And keep in mind, this shit started on the first day of school, too. So, first day of school, first day of tennis practice. I roll on a fucking tennis ball, step on it. I go
hmm
up in the air, I come back down, I land on my wrist like that.
Ow. I've always said that they should remove the balls from tennis.
It, it,
Be a
it
lot safer.
it's a controversial opinion, but it's coming into favor more and more in the
Mhm.
recent years.
I also think that tennis is just fucking dumb. Let's put that out there. I'm not a tennis fan.
I can't wait
Tennis,
for
bowling, chess, and golf all suck.
I can't wait for fucking BLBS next week after that opinion. But so I break my wrist. I'm at home. I'm like, hey mom, hey dad, I want a Wii U. They're like, you know what? You're in a period of physical and emotional turmoil. How about we get you a Wii U? However, actually, what they did is
Okay.
just helped me go through all of my games and figure out which ones I could sell to get a Wii U.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, that's unfortunate. Was it
So
worth it? Is the question that we're here to ask today.
in hindsight, I purged my entire GameCube collection.
Holy balls.
um, so in the moment, I was fucking stoked because the Wii U was my
Yeah.
first HD system. I had been wanting it for so long. I had a 3DS since 2011, so I was keeping up with Nintendo, of course, and
hmm
still playing on my Wii a lot. But I'd wanted this fucking Wii U so badly, and I finally got it with New Super Mario Brothers U. That was the bundle I got from GameStop,
Yep.
and then I also got Mario Kart 8 the same day. And then a couple days later, I got the original Hyrule Warriors because I got that at the beginning of the week. I got the system beginning of the week, and the game came out at the end.
Okay.
And that was the first console game I ever bought digitally. Fun fact.
Interesting. All right.
But then from there, I was fucking all in on the Wii U, and it was my main system until beginning of 2016. Where did you get into the fucking Wii U adventure?
Middle of the year of 2015.
Okay.
I got it, or early in the year of 2015 because I got it just before they stopped giving away Mewtwo for free for Smash 4.
Okay.
Um, uh, I got it for Smash 4 with Smash 4, and the bundle included Nintendo Land and New Super Mario, or no, sorry, Super Mario 3D World. And I since have purchased probably 4 other games for the Wii U, but the Wii U was a Smash console, and that was about it.
I think that there are maybe
Mm,
3 or 4 Wii U exclusives I haven't played.
mhm.
I think I've played everything else. I've basically played the entire Wii U library.
Okay,
Um, I loved this system. I still love this system, and every time a new exclusive was out, I was picking it up. I was trading shit in. I was rumbling in the jungle however I needed to get whatever came next, including stuff like Mario Party 10 and
okay,
the not great games. I was playing all of them. And I really dug the system. And there's a couple points I want to hit on. I
okay.
want to hit on why I think the Wii U is special in terms of its library, but I want to talk about why I still think it's an essential Nintendo console to own today.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
to
I'm gonna
speak,
need you to convince me on both these things because I don't like my Wii U.
that's fair. I'm certainly in the minority. I feel like the Wii U defense force is coming out more and more, largely
Sure.
because the people who didn't like it no longer give a shit about not liking it.
Yes, exactly. And
Um,
honestly, that was something that I had a Wii U. Clearly, it's sitting
yeah,
fucking behind me, and I just told you my story. But I would defend the Wii U quite a bit back in the day before the Switch really became into its own thing. And I would say like, hey, look, I mean, look at this list of games. I would like read them out to my friends, be like, hey, look,
yeah,
Wii U has all these games. You can play Bayonetta 2 on it. You can play Smash. You can play Mario Kart. How is this not great? Not that I owned most of those games. I never bought Mario Kart 8. I never bought Bayonetta 2. I never bought Yoshi's Woolly World. I never bought Kirby Canvas Curse. I never bought like I own a very small fraction of the Wii U games. And even though a lot of them I have played on Switch since then.
sure.
Um, but I have a large amount of respect for the Wii U's library, even if I didn't play a lot of it. But I don't particularly think I do disagree as of now, before you've presented your case,
Sure.
that the Wii U is an essential Nintendo console to still consider.
Time to fucking crack my knuckles because I got work to do. Because I think
Okay.
that that's a totally
It's not gonna
reasonable
be it's gonna
opinion.
be too hard to convince me. I'm in an interesting mindset this morning. I'm
Sure,
sick. I was up late.
sure.
It's an interesting morning, but you're gonna have to put in a little bit of work. I don't want to set your expectations too low.
The first thing I want to talk about is, of course, from the perspective of the Wii U's exclusives.
Yep.
Bless you. From the perspective of the Wii's exclusives, there's no reason to own it for those anymore
Sure.
because so many of them are on Switch. There's a
Yeah.
couple left, but I think they're gonna anything that's still on Wii is gonna come over.
Yeah.
Um, at the time, though, I think the Wii U's biggest flaw from a library perspective was the franchises it skipped. There were key omissions. Whether you're talking about F-Zero, whether you're talking about Metroid, whether you're talking about games like that.
Animal Crossing,
Animal Crossing, that was the one I was
quote
fucking
unquote.
on the tip of my brain. So
Fucking
there were
Amiibo party,
that
Amiibo
was a
festival.
that was a disappointing day when I
Ah.
fucking thought we were getting Animal Crossing. But that's besides the point. There were large emissions,
Mm-hmm.
but what was here, I think, is really special in a lot of different ways.
Sure.
And the core thing I want to drill in on is the way that they really use the Wii U gamepad in effective ways.
Okay.
A lot of gimmicks end up falling through, and there were a fair number of Wii U titles that didn't use it. But when you look at something like Splatoon, Super
Yes.
Mario Maker, there
Mm-hmm.
even the Zelda remasters
Mm-hmm.
are made so much better by the gamepad. You got games like Nintendo Land. There were a lot of titles that I think took the gamepad and made it feel integral. They really showed a fresh way to play. I think that the dual screen home console experience was really fun, and Nintendo proved why it was and proved why it was important and innovated around the gimmick. We wouldn't have gotten things like Splatoon, Super Mario Maker without it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that those are some of Nintendo's freshest ideas.
I
I
agree.
think that the Wii U's library was this great convergence of a hardware gimmick that was really hard to understand that Nintendo then had to creatively problem solve how to explain its use.
Sure.
And I think they did. They didn't manage to do it to a scale that actually got people in the door,
Hmm.
But if you had a Wii U, I think it was hard to not understand the appeal of the gamepad. There were so many exclusives that used it so well, and just so many interesting ideas came out of this generation, I think.
Hmm. I with my experience with the Wii U, there are very few Wii U the games that I played a consistent amount of that actually took advantage of the gamepad's particular features. Smash 4 being the one I obviously played most.
Sure.
But I played Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which somewhat uses it, but it's obviously not necessary as shown by the Switch port. But things like Splatoon, Mario Maker, Kirby Canvas Curse, Nintendo Land, which I personally was not a huge fan of, but these games that I didn't have the chance to get into because I didn't own them. So maybe that's part of my disconnect from the Wii U is because I do respect its creativity and especially the difference in the form factor, but I didn't have the chance to experience what was really designed for it because the games that I did play could be done in other ways.
Yeah, I think it really was a case of needing to get into that library to be able to
Yeah.
see what it really had to offer. Because at the same time that it had these great games that had innovative new ideas, they had these really more iterative but incredibly polished and fun experiences too. Tropical Freeze, Super
Yeah.
Mario 3D World. There were a lot of excellent games that didn't, push the barriers or iterate and innovate in ways with the gamepad that felt great, but were just solid and polished Nintendo experiences. I really
Sure.
think Tropical Freeze, 3D World, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, there are just so many great games on the system even outside of their utilization of the gamepad that felt creative and fun and felt like Nintendo was tapping into something new and exciting. Having that co-op Mario is so much fun. I really love revisiting that game. I played through it like 4 times on Wii U with different groups of people because it really became a system that I loved by myself, but I played a lot of with friends. And I was able to get people who were mainly, Sony and Microsoft fans engaged by these multiplayer games in ways that we hadn't really been before. I think that
Sure.
presentation of these games was incredible. They looked gorgeous on the system, and they still look gorgeous. And it was just a convergence of I think Nintendo doing a lot of things right, but doing bigger things wrong. The marketing was wrong, the
Yeah.
power was wrong. They put themselves behind the eight ball, which was
Hmm.
unfortunate because I think what the console did right, it did really, really right.
Sure. I honestly don't have too much to comment on that. My experience with the console, actually, I would say was mostly multiplayer games. I
Sure.
can't remember a single player game that I beat on my Wii U. I finished the first section of Captain Toad. Like, there's a point in the middle where you like switch
Yeah.
over to a second, essentially a second game. But so I finished that. But other than that, I'm looking at the Wii U's library right now. I don't think I even owned that many single player games. I have since gotten Pikmin 3. I have Xenoblade Chronicles X behind me. I have Wind Waker. But really, for me, the multiplayer of the Wii U was its strongest suit because that's the only thing my friends and I gave a shit about. We
Sure.
played plenty of Smash 4. I'm not going to harp on that for too long, but Smash 4, obviously, I think probably the highlight of this console for the majority of the people who owned it. Um, I played Mario Kart 8 on my friends' consoles. I played Pokken Tournament on my friends' consoles. We played a lot of Rayman Legends on my friends'
Great
Wii
game.
U. But all of those multiplayer experiences. And I think that that is where it had its strongest shine for me because I was coming off of the Wii and the DS, in which those were, again, multiplayer consoles for me. That was Smash, that was Mario Kart, that was Mario Kart DS, that was battling Pokemon with my friends. And I was not really used to Nintendo games being these single player experiences because while I dabbled in things like New Super Mario Bros. Or and obviously Pokemon, mostly single player, but I didn't play a lot of big first party Nintendo games that were single player adventures. And I honestly still haven't played a lot of them. I'm just getting around to the Zelda and the Mario games that I missed growing up. But I think that the Wii U being that multiplayer console, especially in a time where multiplayer for me was playing on Steam or Minecraft with my friends on my computer, was very special because I can't tell you an Xbox or a PlayStation game that I've played local co-op. I don't think there's ever been one in my entire life because my friends didn't get those games. They
Sure.
had their Call of Duties and their Halos and stuff, and we would play. Oh, well, I guess I played Halo Reach with my friends, but other than that, I think Nintendo focusing on those multiplayer experiences was special for me. And regardless of my experience with the library, I think that a lot of those games still hold up today, with henceforth why they've been ported to the Switch and done incredibly well.
I think that that's a really great point. What I want to actually hammer in on is that the fact that I actually think that the highlights of the system for a lot of people, sure, it might have been in Smash 4, but I think it was really Splatoon and Super Mario Maker.
Well, yes,
And what's
sure,
interesting is the way that Nintendo maintained this focus on local co-op with these incredible experiences in Nintendo Land. I know we disagree on that one, but I've had so many incredible times playing that, as well as Smash and Mario Kart and all these things. But they also moved into the online space in
mm,
ways that felt very Nintendo, so a little bit backwards, but
yeah,
still incredibly compelling. The online suites for Splatoon and Super Mario Maker
yeah,
were just so robust. And Splatoon, I wore my Splatoon shirt in honor today, but that is one of my favorite games of all time. And it's
yeah,
transition, of course, to Splatoon 2 because that's just iterative and better in basically every way.
yeah,
But that original Splatoon experience, I'll never forget playing that test fire and then getting the full game. And my friend and I, we would play hours every weekend. And it was just so much fun to see Nintendo embrace their hardware gimmicks, embrace online play, embrace creative new approaches to familiar and new IP. Splatoon being a new IP with all of these
yeah,
things around it, I think makes it so special. And I think that for as safe as the Wii U was in some respects, it was also a time when Nintendo was taking risks. They were taking risks on games like Splatoon, but they were doing things like securing Bayonetta. They
yeah,
were they were funding games like Devil's Third and Rodea the Sky Soldier, which are not good games,
no,
but Nintendo still went after them. And I think it put them on this track where they were a little bit more aggressive with acquisitions as we've seen in the Switch era and with more partnerships and third-party relationships. I think we did
yeah,
see them take these interesting steps during the Wii U era that went under the radar because the system was just failing to connect.
hmm,
And you did get things like Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which were just Nintendo delivering these interesting niche experiences that a lot of people just overlooked. So
hmm,
I think there's a complex success to the Wii U, and people say it in the most basic sense of, oh, if we didn't get the gamepad, we wouldn't get the Switch. But I think it runs deeper than that.
yeah,
I think a lot of the things Nintendo did on this machine really set them up for the success that they had to have to continue, and the Switch enabled that. But the Wii U, I think you can trace a lot of things back to it.
sure,
At the same time, I think that this user interface is better than the Switches. I think there are things that the Wii U did better. If you excise the fact that it couldn't be any slower than it is right now, the way that
the Wii U
yeah, the,
interface, sure, yeah, okay,
the way they crafted a UI experience that felt like a real living and breathing Nintendo community felt really cool. From Miiverse to the plaza on the top screen where you could see what your friends are playing in their messages, to the
hmm,
ways that stamps would interface with things, to the fun little bells and whistles going onto the eShop and everything. This was just such a complete and fun experience. There was times when I'd be writing, I'll just have my Wii U on in the background because it's just a pleasant ecosystem to be in.
okay.
I just think,
I personally, I understand that, but I have zero connection to that.
sure.
I don't think I ever had any friends. I never added a friend on the Wii U, and I never used the eShop once.
Hmm.
And I, well, except for to get a Smash DLC. Um, and so that meant that for me, the experience with having the plaza pulled up on the main screen when you turn on the console and having the little Mii's beeping and bopping around, it was all default Nintendo Miiverse stuff. I never used Miiverse before. It was all just generic advertisements and things like that. And obviously, that's my experience and not what the full experience of the console was going to be. But I do think that there is probably a lot of people who shared that experience with me of having their Wii just to play Smash and Mario Kart with their friends, which is how basically everyone I knew that owned a Wii U used it for, and didn't add the friends and didn't use the Miiverse and didn't get into all of those things that Nintendo had crafted to be such a fun and engaging experience. But it's so easy to miss out on those because of how poorly it was marketed and didn't pull a lot of people in. I didn't feel a camaraderie around the Wii with my friends because we just used it to hop into Smash and then that was it, and then get distracted by basically anything else. And I think that's unfortunate because I do think that those things were very cool, and I wish that there was more of that creative and engaging flair around the Switch's UI. Although I personally don't have any issues with the Switch's UI, but it's interesting that they chose to put that on a console that unfortunately didn't pan out the way that they were probably hoping.
Yeah, I think your experience with the Wii U just speaks to the way that Nintendo couldn't communicate it, which was the biggest
Yeah.
problem. Because the way we're talking about it, it feels like we're talking about different systems, when in fact we just
Yes.
use these machines in completely disparate ways.
Uh-huh.
Which I think is disappointing to see, and not to your fault at all, because having that for Smash and Mario Kart just made sense. And if you're in these other ecosystems, why would you come over here? And from my perspective, I could give you 25 reasons why the Wii U should have been your primary console, as it was mine. But at the same time, I know in the back of my head, in the front of my head, in the side of my head, my fucking eyes, nose, ears, and mouth, that there are so many reasons why you wouldn't want to do that and have that
Yeah.
experience.
Especially in that generation, I didn't have a primary console. I
Sure.
owned plenty of that was my retro console phase where I was
Okay.
buying all sorts of old systems and playing a couple of the games on each of them and
Hmm.
not beating any of them because they were old games and I was a dumb kid and I didn't want to finish them. But I was mostly on PC. I was a Steam
Yeah.
gamer for that phase, and the accessibility of playing multiplayer games on a PC is just far and above anything pretty much any console has ever done. And I think that that was probably the reason why I didn't get into online games like Super Mario Maker or Splatoon, even though my brother owned Splatoon and he played it. But I was so used to just easily hopping in on Steam and not having to deal with friend codes or doing anything through the console, that I wasn't compelled by those online experiences because they just seemed like gimped versions of online games from my perspective and from my experience.
Well, I think what's interesting about that is that for as cumbersome as the Wii U was, it was streamlined in certain ways. Like friend codes were gone on this machine, which I think is so interesting. You just,
Is that true? Well, I guess I
yeah,
would know.
you all you do is search by whatever their tag was, and you can just add
Mm.
them as a friend that way. So there were things Nintendo did to streamline their own process, and the Wii U and Super Mario Maker and Splatoon used the Wii U's interface to have a fairly seamless online experience, but again, was just a little bit buried, unfortunately. But you said something that I want to hone in on. You were a retro gamer during that era.
Yeah.
And this connects to why I think that the Wii U is an essential purchase for Nintendo fans in 2020. This is the best console for experiencing Nintendo's past.
Yeah.
As a legacy machine, nothing is going to ever beat the Wii U. The Switch could get Virtual Console, but it's never going to touch this. And the reason being is because that eShop, you're going to get access to NES games, SNES games, N64 games, including games that never got released. And in the West, you got things like Sin and Punishment that were so cool, Earthbound Beginnings,
Yeah.
really interesting games. And then at the same time, you got GBA, you got DS, and then you could play, your Wii discs through this in addition to your Wii U discs. And then not fucking endorsing anything, but there's various very simple things you can do to the Wii U to have it play GameCube games. I believe you can actually get it to play your discs if you futz with it the right way, but you can also do other things that we're not going to discuss that I don't like participating in. But the fact of the matter is that this, even just right out of the box before you futz with it at all, this machine allows you to easily access so many parts of Nintendo's history that are hard to access otherwise.
Sure. Yeah. And that's actually the way that I see myself getting into maybe into the Wii U in the coming whatever.
Sure.
I unfortunately I don't really know how long this will all be supported, and that could completely gimp your argument. I think that there's a chance that the Wii U eShop is shut down sooner than the Wii one was, because it doesn't have that engagement of sales and attach rates that the Wii clearly did, and especially because online downloading games was so special on the Wii. And I don't have any friends who played any virtual console games on their Wii U. I have only played Star Fox 64, which you so graciously purchased for me, but I am interested in the Wii U as a virtual console machine because, as we've discussed, catching up on franchises such as Zelda and Metroid, they have almost all of those games on
Yes.
the Wii U, and I think that that's very cool. I do think that there's a small possibility, but a small one that Nintendo does f- return to a focus of virtual console with a future console, not probably not the Switch, which will most likely by default dethrone the Wii U as a virtual console machine because there's no way that they'll won't add anything more to the virtual console. But we do live in an era where the Switch has only a little bit of access to those classic games. You have SNES and NES Online, which are, in my opinion, very good services and totally worth the money. But you can't piecemeal download, and they're not the amount of games that there were on the Wii U in many different regards. Um, but the Wii U is very interesting to me. I have games on it that I still want to play. Wind Waker HD. I will play Pikmin 3 on there unless I somehow get it on my Switch. Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I have sitting behind me. I do want to play those games at some point, and I'm not opposed to trying to get into the virtual console and downloading some of those games. Though from my perspective, I would rather play a lot of those games on their original hardware because I have access to those original hardware. That's obviously not the way that most people do. I don't think a lot of people still keep all their old systems like I have, but it does mean that the Wii U, while it has those options, doesn't shine in any particular capacity for me because I don't have that connection to it or the drive to want to use it in any of those ways.
Okay. Well, it seems like I think we've done a very good job in this discussion representing the two sides of the Wii U's reception.
Mhm.
Uh, actually, I think, are a little bit more charitable to it than a lot of the anti-Wii U people were.
I'm not an anti Wii U person. Let's fucking put it out there. I enjoyed my Wii U when I had it. Didn't use it much, but did enjoy the experience that I had on it,
Sure.
and I kept it with me. I have it at fucking college with me. All right, I'm not that anti Wii U,
Yes.
especially because it can play Wii games, and that's something that I do enjoy because I brought a couple Wii games with me alongside my Wii U games.
Well, there you go. So I think the note I want to leave it on is that this is one of my favorite systems of all time, not only for its sentimental value, but because, contrary to what some of my spending decisions would have you believe, I can't really afford to get all these games on their traditional hardware, nor do I even think that that's the way I want to play some of them. Like Metroid Fusion, I played this year and loved, but if I didn't have save states, I never would have beaten that game.
Yeah.
So I just think from every perspective, the Wii U has given me a lot. It gave me several years of it as my primary console where I experienced all these, what I think are incredible games. It still has paid me great dividends as a virtual console machine. I think as a celebration of Nintendo's history, it's this great little fucking kind of rectangle that
Mm-hmm.
just takes you through so many eras of the company's legacy. It gave me Amiibo.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me a Nintendo that was a little bit more focused towards the future. It brought them into the HD era. Gave me my most successful tweet of all time with 1.1 thousand likes where I was talking about the Wii U.
Holy
Shout out
shit.
to the Wii U. Well, this whole video is a shout out to the Wii U. But that's where I think I'm going to leave it. I think it's very underrated. If I had to rank it right now, it's either my third or fourth favorite system,
Okay.
depending. And I don't plan to ever sell it or get rid of it. It's always going to sit right there. Currently, it sits next to my Series S. Um, I'm a big Wii U fan.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, your passion for it has sort of re-sparks my interest in it. I'm probably not going to go replay my games because at the moment because there's so much coming out right now that I have to focus on. But I'm not as I said, I'm not opposed to trying to get into the virtual console and figuring out the things of the system that I missed. And especially because this game is dirt cheap to fucking collect for. There are
Yes.
some that are pretty expensive, but the majority of the Wii U library sits in a fucking dusty corner at a GameStop with the fucking covers coming off, and I can get a lot of those games that I did missed, but and didn't play, but for pretty cheap if I want to go in there, and I probably will at some point. The game collecting bug will likely hit me, and Wii U is a cool place to start because it does have It doesn't have a gigantic library, and it doesn't have fucking 20 games from every series that I want to get. And it'll be easy to feel like I'm really getting through something. And I think that is charming in its own way. And it points to the fact that even though this console wasn't particularly popular or successful in many of the regards that people talk about classically, it does have its own place in gaming history. And especially as someone who's a Nintendo fan, it's cool to see a lot of these games get the comeuppance they deserve on the Switch, and see that people do in fact quite enjoy these games. And it was just the Wii U's external failings that really give these games popularity. But that it does mean that these games are cheap and I can go get them because they've been re-released in better ways on newer hardware. But yeah, no, I appreciate the Wii U. It's easily in my bottom whatever consoles of all time because it doesn't have any particular place in my heart or in any capacity. But I certainly do respect what it did. And as corny as it is, without it, we wouldn't have the Switch. With a lot of these with these particular decisions that Nintendo made and subsequently expanded on with their next console.
If it wasn't for the Wii U, we wouldn't have a more successful but worse system.
Okay.
I'm never going to reveal how much I'm kidding or telling the truth about that.
That would be fantastic. That's a
Just
great
kidding. I
bit.
love my Switch.
Holy shit. You fucking exposed yourself. All right. Well, I am ill. My energy was raised by this discussion. I'm very glad that we did it. I like the fact that you just sent me a thing. You're like, if you can get on, can we record right now? I'm like, fuck it, why not? And we did. We did. See you guys in another video. We've got other stuff coming out that is not focused on consoles that come out in the past and no one really cares about anymore.
We have a lot of videos coming about consoles released in the present. We'll have some morals stuff coming out. We'll have some first impressions of that first week of the PS5 on the way. And let us know in the comments below if you had a Wii U, if you liked it, if you disliked it. I really, really want to hear. I never respond to comments. I'm sorry. But these comments, I promise, if you comment, I'll fucking respond. Promise. Tell me about how much you like Nintendo Land, because that's a beautiful game. But that note, like, subscribe. I'm not going to force you. I can't. I'm still developing my telepathic powers, but they're not ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
We'll
We'll
talk
let
to
you
you
know when
later.
they are, though. But trust me, you'll know when they are.
Fuck. You'll know. You'll know.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to My Asshole.
Chapstick is for pussies.
Thank you. And you are what you eat. Pussy. I like to. Yeah.